Hey, Carson here. I'm back with part two of my Partners and Sons second retailer grab bag that they've sent me. I gave them $100-ish budget. They sent me a whole bunch of books. They have a lot of awesome small press and independent stuff in their store. So I always ask them to show me like what's the cool stuff that our viewers and myself should see. Remember, when I'm doing these videos, I put a numerical value on them only to communicate to Partners and Son how excited I am to have received the books. You know, how much do I like these books in terms of like having them in my collection. They're not necessarily meant to be like this is a rating for the book for everyone. I'll just give my opinion of each book and flip through the book, and then you can all decide for yourself because tastes vary. So I don't like critics who give numbers as if it's some kind of absolute on the thing. So these are the books that I enjoyed, or I thought they were kind of nice, but they weren't anything great. These are the books that I'm ranking 4 through 6. So let's go ahead and take a look at the book. Here we've got Pirate and Parrot by Lucas Weidinger. It's a fun little story about a pirate and his parrot. Pretty over the top. You know what this I think this book is someone. Maybe I don't know. It's not full 24 pages, I don't think. Is it? Yeah, we're at 12 in the middle. I think this is a 24-hour comic. That's what this strikes me as. There's not anything on here that says that, but it looks like this is a 24-hour comic or something of the sorts where the artist just sat down all in one go and went through and then probably colored it later. I quite like some of the compositions and the colors, especially like this frontispiece here. Once you move into the story, this is what happens when you just wing it. But there's some funny moments in it. One of the things that was at first bothersome to me, but I think is just indicative of how it was made, is that there's stuff like scratched out and just left there. So there's a freshness to the story that I find appealing, a freshness to the cartooning, and then the coloring's fun. Some of it devolves into, there's not, the compositions and stuff aren't great, but then you come back to things. It's the pirate tries to go get some hookers. The parrot saves a fish and then demands that the fish fuck him in order to pay him back. He saves the fish from getting eaten. I really like that drawing too, by the way, of that distorted face. And then they all get back together with the pirate in drag. So, I mean, whatever. That's what happens. If this was a planned out story, then I like this a lot less. But I think as just a winging it 24-hour comic, this is kind of fun. I think it's especially saved by the fact that they went back and recolored it. That gives it a lot of oomph. And these weird, strange, like gradients on the bird are pretty funny. So not the best comic I've ever read, but I'm enjoying it for what it is, I think. So I'll give it a 5. I give it a 5 just for that. That drawing's pretty great. It's not quite mud nor slime. It's sludgy by Rob Mirsky. I like this book for the cartooning. It's got good, like, simple, fun, kind of Casper the Ghost, but gross type of cartooning. I like the dot tone patterns that they use in it, and particularly, they're obviously dealing with a toxic slime sludge character. So the single color on there is nice. The production's really good. It's on nice glossy paper, which helps the toxic feel of it. So that's all cool. I like the look of it. The story's a bit goofy. It's just a couple sludgy characters make a new sludgy, and he goes bad. So it's just like a fun, dumb one-off. It feels like someone, getting their feet wet with comics, getting their first, second, third comic out there, just getting something down. This is the kind of stuff that I wish all my students would be doing, like make a comic, get it finished. But that's it. It's just like a fun, well-cartooned book. I don't think the story will last with me. So if I had to give it a rating, I would say it's a 5. Nick Forker's Island. This is #1, Vitreous Humor. Love the cover on this. It's on a really nice hard paper, and the colors are really cool. Really nice gradient on the yellow, and then this almost like 2D goggles, glasses overlap of color here. Really like the design.
The lettering on it's really nice. You open it up inside, and it's really nice production with like these really crisp black that almost stands off the paper. So that had me excited immediately. Really good cartooning. Um, it starts out just kind of like this laundry list of all of the crap that was going on in 2020. Just like, oh my God, how much could go on crazy? So I get the sense, okay, we're in for another diary comic. But the book really kind of goes back and forth between diaristic comics and more like a stand up comedian. And because the narrator is represented as I, and so he's talking, it's not like me, my, I. You'll get things like, I guess that's the joke there. Maybe is I'm the I. I hadn't thought about that while I was reading it, but like the I is just the narrator, and so you're not really thinking about Nick Forker so much, and you'll go through just the drudgery of a day like this, getting up, but it doesn't feel like a diary comic. It's a character, or at least you can inhabit it, and okay, that was my day during COVID too. Like nothing's going on. I'm on my phone looking at the news, blah blah blah. So I think that's a smart strategy. Really great cartooning, great ink work throughout. Um, then it just, with this type of approach, it just depends on the one, whether you relate to it or not. This is obviously someone who lives in New York, so some of that applies and some of it doesn't. Like I don't really have the New York problems. But always good cartooning throughout. Some of them, like all the pencils and everything, are left, and some of them they've been cleaned up. I don't know why the choice there. This looks like something that comes out in some sort of periodical that's been collected, which is interesting. It's cool cartooning here. This one I really relate to. The eye goes up to heaven. He's obviously died, and he said, "Do I have to go back?" Yes, but why? I think we're all getting to that point where we feel like, "Oh God, just give me a rest," like a sleep sound. I'm not taking myself out, but sleep seems good. But then there's ones like this where he's talking about his art and da da da, and typical artist worries, and and being masturbatory. Like you're being extra masturbatory when you're making a comic about how you're worried about being masturbatory. So that kind of stuff's a turn off for me. But then back to just the really good cartooning, or living in a noisy area. That's stuff that, even though I'm sure it's diaristic, doesn't feel like it. It's stuff that we can all relate to more. So those I think must be Sundays, these big pages, and then there's like this type of stuff looks like a Sunday with a little thing at the bottom. I don't know if these were actually published in a periodical. It doesn't say. It's at least intended to look that way, and then these look like dailies. And again, some of the dailies function more like stand-up comedy. Cool sticker here. And then some of them like are dealing more with like a diary. It's interesting. I know we were talking, me and Matt Battaglia talking a few months ago, seeing how we hadn't seen anything dealing with COVID yet. So it is nice to see, even if it's diaristic, to see some stuff about COVID, at least people dealing with it for the first time. Strange now that it's over. Really like this bit of cartooning here on this panel, and also, this shows the more stand-up comedy side of it. Do you want to give up cheese but having a hard time? Easy if you remember cheese smells just like feet. You're welcome. And then I love the pupil dilating to stuff the pizza in like a mouth. So funny joke, and then also funny sight gag, pun intended, to go with it. And then this seems pretty autobiographical, but worried about getting COVID and going to get the nose swabs, and then like falls asleep and has a crazy dream that plays out over a number of these, and then wakes up and find out, oh yeah, I'm super sick, but I don't have COVID, which happened to me and Tori a number of times. Like every 3 months we were going and getting tested and never came back positive. I thought there was a bit of an over exaggeration here about how brutal the nasal swab is. Like it wasn't fun, but for comedic purposes, I guess it makes sense. So I enjoyed the moments that were more like the stand-up comedy routines, not so much the artists talking about being masturbatory. Like just don't do that. Really enjoyed the cartooning, good production, and in the areas where they were dealing with COVID, I found that interesting, even though it was diaristic, just because I haven't seen that yet, but I feel like that's going to get real old real quick as a bunch of this stuff starts coming out that's too just, factual about it. Like, by the fourth time we read oh, I thought I had COVID, but I didn't comic, yeah, it's going to get pretty tiring. So, how's a shelf life? But I think the stuff like this, that's just like wanting to smash your phone for buzzing, that's going to carry over and have more longevity to it. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag, but largely a good book. I don't know that I would go intentionally buy another one, but it's if you're into this type of short comedic strip, I think it would be a good one to pick up. So I'll give it a 6. Pilot 1400 by Stathis Cymberlitis. This is from Decadence Comics. I was excited when I saw this in the box. We've done a video with Matt Canning looking at Stathis's pycnoleptic inertia, and I've got a couple other books from Decadence that I really like. I just love the art style that he uses. The only bummer is in this and the other books, like the reproduction's really bad. They're half-toning their own art. So I hope someone has these guys watch the videos that Sean makes about how to deal with their own art, because they have such a fine line with such like nice little ticky details that makes the style so cool. And the stories are always this weird, silent, surrealist type of thing. So it's really driven by the art. It's a bit of a bummer to see them just like printed out with really obvious, even on thick lines, it's really obvious dot patterns on the side. But I do always just like the vibes and the art. The stories are obviously just symbolic, surreal stories, so it's hard to take anything terribly concrete away from them, but that's also nice. That's part of what I like about it. This one being really short, I think I like Stathis's work better in collections, and then the poor production. I'll give this like 6, but really his work overall is up in the 8s to me, 9s. I just think it needs to be put into a collection where the art is handled well and printed well, and it's all in one big, like, well presented chunk, so this artist can get the attention that they're due.
All right, that's it for the okay books. Those are my 4 through 6s, books that I thought were, they were enjoyable, but not things that I'm super excited about. Tomorrow I'll come back and we'll have a bunch of books that are ones that I really excited that I got, things that are artists that I've never heard of that I want to follow up on. Books that I'm pretty happy to have in my collection, things that I think are excellent for different reasons. So thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash